We explain the Northern European explorers.
In the 800s, some Vikings left the British Islands for the last uninhabited part of Europe, Iceland, which was not so icy. There they built a civilization of nearly 100,000 people, established rules and a government called the Althing, and lived off abundant resources. However, due to small space, wanderlust, and violence towards each other, members were exiled from the community, members like Erik the Red, who pushed off Iceland for Greenland, which was not so green. Erik's sons Leif and Torvald moved farther out on the tides, with Leif eventually arriving in Canada. Torvald took a second voyage into Canada and was most likely killed by natives. A Viking who followed him named Thorfinn, who actually married Torvald's widow Gudrid, took a third voyage with a group of settlers. The Vikings established a settlement in Newfoundland in a place they called Vinland because of all the grapes. Thorfinn and Gudrid may have sailed down to Massachusetts. Some people even believe they made it to New York Harbor, having the first European baby born in America that they named Snorri at a place they called Stamfjord. The colonies, however, were not long-lasting and were abandoned by the 1300s. As to why they left, speculation ranges from the poor relationship they had with the natives they called Skraelings to the mini ice age that froze the northern hemisphere. A century later, the descendants of the Vikings, those from northern Germanic tribes, would return to America. After the conclusion of the War of the Roses, Henry VII was willing to throw the English hat into competing with the Spanish and Portuguese in order to find a passage to the wealth of China. He agreed to sponsor Italian explorer Giovanni Caboto, or John Cabot, and his plan to find the Northwest Passage to the shorter northern latitudes. Cabot landed in Newfoundland and sailed down to Maine, possibly even to the Chesapeake. Finding very little gold and not willing to violate the Church's Treaty of Tordesillas since England was still Catholic, the English did not pursue colonization. The Dutch, who'd broken from the Spanish and the Catholic Church, jumped into the Atlantic in 1609 after they'd established the Dutch East India Company to compete with the Portuguese in 1602. Now they were looking for a faster route than the Cape of Good Hope in the northeast. English sailor Henry Hudson led a Dutch expedition towards Scandinavia, but opted to swing west instead, hitting Labrador and then sailing down to the Chesapeake and the Delaware River, before sailing up to New York Harbor and up to what would become the Hudson River and future Albany. Hudson logged stories of native villages and animals like deer and otter, and of the three-sister farming system of bean, squash, and corn. Dutch merchants back in the Netherlands saw the value in establishing colonies like the New Netherlands along the Hudson. Adrian Block sailed next, exploring Long Island, and in 1614 the government allowed the founding of New Amsterdam. After the English Reformation, the English found themselves in a Renaissance, and also in competition with Spanish and French Catholics, especially in terms of a global empire. Elisabeth I made it a priority of getting an English piece of the global trade pie. After the sinking of the Spanish Armada in 1588, she would get her wish. She sent out Sir Walter Raleigh and his half-brother Sir Humphrey Gilbert to explore and establish new American colonies.